I really do not know how I feel about Christmas on the Menu. It sounded like my kind of Christmas film. To be quite frank, I love Christmas films about bakeries, or chefs, or cooks, because it makes me hungry for Christmas food, and Christmas food's one of the best things about December. But in terms of the narrative, I wasn't really that taken by it. It was released last year in 2020, written and directed by Jake Helgren, and stars Kim Shaw as our protagonist, Josie. And Josie owns her own restaurant. She is a fantastic chef, and she agrees to go home for the holidays to cook a special festive menu for her mother's bed and breakfast bistro, which is newly opened. She invites along some special guests, which, and those special guests, I have to say, are very interesting characters and make what is otherwise a pretty monotonous narrative quite fascinating. They really liven up certain scenes where it's otherwise really quite awkward and boring, but those personalities for the special guests, I thought were great and really added a nice flavour to this. The problem is that one of the individuals who has just come back into her life, not in a good way, is Tanner. Tanner is played by Clayton James. I love the character. And he is a food critic who once gave her a bad review. So now she's worried that the only reason he is going to try the food at the bistro is because he's going to give a negative review for her mother. But this wouldn't be a Christmas rom-com without the concept of two individuals who clearly don't like each other actually maybe falling in love. What happens there, I'm not going to say, but I will say that it's quite interesting, and I was kind of pleased with the way it developed. Nothing overly interesting happens, and that's obviously overshadowed by the interesting guests who are there. The characters are particularly interesting, as Iris and Marla. I just loved watching them on screen. They turned dull scenes into something quite fresh and exciting and had interesting perspectives. Josie is a character I didn't care for in the slightest. Very well performed, reasonably well written, but quite dull. I also didn't feel her passion. There are a lot of festive films where the protagonist is a cook or a baker or a chef, and you really feel how much they love their craft. With Josie, I didn't get that. I didn't feel like she was doing this for the love of it, and I feel like that's a bit of a shame. Pepper is a character played by Katrina Norman. I won't say much about Pepper because I don't want to spoil what she brings to it, but I will say I feel like she was a little bit over the top, and not in a fun way either. I feel like some of her actions were not the most believable, and the motivations weren't the most realistic. But for the most part, Christmas on the Menu is alright. I'm on the fence with whether I think it's an okay film or a pretty okay film. Like, I don't have that many really high opinions of it, but I wouldn't say it's a bad film. It's just lacking in passion, it's lacking in excitement, it's not lacking in festivities. I will give it that. And the characters of Tanner, and of course of Iris and Marla, I found really interesting. I really liked them. It's fine. It's not an awful film. There is definitely room for improvement, but if you're looking for a food-based Christmas film and you haven't seen Christmas on the Menu, I say give it a go. You might like it.